On this episode, we say goodbye to the 10th generation Honda Civic with what is arguably the greatest Civic ever built, the 2021 Type R Limited Edition. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. The first Type R to arrive in the United States wasn't even called a Honda. It was the track-focused 1997 Acura Integra Type R. I almost bought one in 1998. But at the last minute, I was swayed to the GSR, which featured a similar B18 engine and a quick-shifting 5-speed. But the GSR came with a leather interior and more color options. Mine was Cypress Green Pearl. A proper Honda Type R didn't arrive in the United States until 2017, with the introduction of the Civic Type R, otherwise known by the designation FK8. We reviewed it at the time and were appropriately impressed. Based on the 10th generation Civic, it featured amazing handling and power in a package that was appropriately bonkers to look at. Fun fact, the 2017 Honda Civic Type R set the front-wheel drive lap record at the Nürburgring when it was introduced, besting times by legitimate supercars. So not only did the Type R look fast, it was proven to be exceptionally fast. At the time of this production, Honda has already announced the arrival of the 11th generation Civic in 2022. This will be an all-new Civic that features a massively upgraded interior along with a more sophisticated exterior design. Even though it's early, a Type R variant has already been spotted in the wild, but has yet to be officially announced, so powertrain details are still unknown at this time. But before we can say goodbye and farewell to the previous generation Type R, Honda has unleashed one final version of the FK8. This is the 2021 Honda Civic Type R Limited Edition. Based on the refreshed 2020 Type R, the Limited Edition features a number of subtle but important changes, including new 20-inch forged wheels wrapped in super sticky Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires. These save 18 pounds of unsprung weight. An additional 28 pounds of sound deadening was removed from the roof, rear hatch, fenders, and dash. Honda even removed the rear wiper blade to save a pound. In total, it's been slimmed down by about 50 pounds overall, and it still has a touchscreen infotainment system. The limited edition also gets special Phoenix yellow paint with black accents and a number badge by the shifter. As the name also suggests, it is indeed limited. Only 1,000 are being built globally, with 600 earmarked for the US market. Price as you see it here with no options, $44,990 US, including destination and delivery. Under the hood of all current Civic Type Rs is the K20C1. This is a 2-liter direct-injected 4-cylinder with VTEC, a turbocharger, and a 7,000 RPM redline. Peak output is rated at 306 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. A close ratio 6-speed manual and a helical limited slip differential are standard. It also gets a lightened flywheel. Economy isn't the point of this vehicle, but if you do drive it politely, you'll be happy to know you can get up to 28 miles to the gallon on the highway and 22 around town. In the back, there is, of course, a huge wing, and yes, it is functional, providing up to 66 pounds of downforce at speeds over 124 miles per hour. Useful if you're trying to break a new track record. Around town, it just looks cool. It also has a lower spoiler to reduce drag. All the other winglets and ducts do provide functionality, from the vortex generators on the roof to the brake cooling ducts up front. For 2020, the radiator grille was also made larger to improve circulation for long, hot track days. Even with that huge wing there, access to the trunk is easy. Inside, you'll find 25.7 cubic feet of capacity. Fold the seats down for up to 46.2 cubic feet. To save weight, they chucked the spare tire. Instead, you get an electric inflator. Now let's see if the second row is usable at all. Second row is surprisingly roomy. I mean, how many other cars that hold Nürburgring records can you fit in the back? I'm 6'1", I got plenty of headroom, lots of leg room. The seats are a little on the firm side, but you know, for what this is intended for, I think that's fine.
Comparing this to the Integra Type R that I almost bought way back in 1998, this is luxury, man. We have a full interior. We have a navigation system in our head unit. We have adaptive cruise control. We have a second row seat. There's actually seats back there. Now, the nice thing about having a back seat here and the fact that they've lightened it is you can take that seat out and you can save yourself an extra couple pounds if being that much quicker is that important to you on a track day. But I think this is probably fine. This feels like a sports car. We have these deep buckets that are covered in Alcantara. The same material is on the steering wheel. Seating position is excellent. The support I'm getting is fantastic. Adjusting the seats here, we have hand cranks because they are lighter than going with electronics. And that's what this is all about, making the lightest, quickest, most nimble Honda Civic on the planet. There is no sunroof because, of course, sunroof adds weight. Don't want to do that here. Let's go ahead and power it on. Of course, this has a 6-speed manual transmission because Honda knows what you want to do while you're at the track day. And, oh, that is one of the best feelings, if not the best feeling manual transmission on the planet. Let's talk about the rest of this interior. It looks very much like a typical Honda Civic, just with a lot of racy elements. We have the carbon fiber inlays, we have red plastic here. We have their standard infotainment system. It's not their newest system. This is actually like a previous generation, and it's a little slow. It's not my favorite. It does get the job done, and it uses maps that are actually not bad. Let's see if we can use voice.
The voice prompt can be interrupted at any time by pressing the talk button again and saying a command.
No phone is paired to the system. Would you like to add one now? Yes. I guess we have to add a phone to it. It doesn't have it built in like some of the more modern fancy cars. Navigate to the nearest Starbucks.
The closest one I see is Starbucks, about 1.6 miles to your south on 161st Avenue Northeast, which averages 3.5 stars according to Yelp. It's open today from 5:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Is that the one you want?
Yes.
Getting directions to Starbucks.
That's Siri talking. So it actually uses Siri integration for the voice stuff when it gets fancy, but yeah, there it is on my phone. But that doesn't do me any good here. Oh, right, because there is navigation. Let's try it this way.
The voice prompt can be interrupted at any time.
Navigate to the nearest Starbucks.
8, 7, 0, asterisk, 6. After the beep, continue to...
Okay, that's useless. Let's do a quick search here. Search. Okay, Starbucks, go, and it's there, and boom, we can go. Okay, so we have navigation. It does work. The fancy stuff like voice commands and all that, it's a little bit of a muddle since it uses Siri for some of it. It uses the built-in stuff for some of it. But the built-in stuff is not great as far as the voice commands go. But you don't buy this for the head unit. Definitely not. You buy this because this is supposed to be the fastest, best driving front-wheel drive hot hatch you can buy, period. The gauge cluster is nice. I always like how Honda kind of rethinks the gauge cluster with information that you actually need. And this one's no different. It's quite good, and it changes pretty substantially whenever you, I mean, the layout doesn't change, but the colors change when you toggle through the different drive modes. If I'm in Plus R, not only does it turn everything red, it also shows me what is being modified. And I think that's nice. I think more car makers should be more clear about what is being changed with these settings. And so I welcome that. The displays are a little on the soft side. They're not as sharp as some of the displays that we're now seeing in the Kias and the Hyundais, but it is still really nice. Continuing our tour, now standard on all the Civics is collision mitigation. Also, I put it in reverse. I get a backup camera. There is no blind spot warning, and actually there's nothing else fancy here. It does have cruise control with lane detection. They've added adaptive to this too. Of course, all modern cars also have drive modes, and this one is no different. We have Comfort, Sport, and Plus R. We'll talk about those while we're driving. Now that I'm on the highway, I can try out a feature that I was kind of surprised to see on here, and that is adaptive cruise control. To enable, I just hit main, I hit set, and then I adjust how far I want to pace the vehicle. Let's get it as close as possible. And it even has collision mitigation, which it just warned me about. So that works pretty good. Let's reset this for cruising. I'm going to go ahead and set it for faster than the vehicle in front of me, and we will see how well it sets the pace. Of course, this is a stick, and it does disable every time I change a gear. So now I have to hit main, I have to hit set. I'm now pacing the vehicle in front of me, and this has one additional trick, which I was really, really happy to see, and that is lane detection. Now, you shouldn't take your hands off the wheel. I am doing this just so that we can see exactly how well it does. And it's tracking pretty good down the middle. It only does it for a few seconds and then tells me to put my hands back on the wheel, as understandable. It's not an autopilot system. This is strictly for long distance driving if you want to reduce fatigue. So even if you're like driving around town, any areas where there's a stoplight or if a car pulls away from you, you have to be ready to respond because it's just going to try to jump back up to your cruising target speed. Now you might notice it is a little loud in here, and that is actually a good thing. Yeah, it is. Because they've reduced the weight on this vehicle by 50 pounds, and they've done that by removing some of the sound deadening. They removed the rear wiper and a few other things. But the good thing here is that this is a track day car that you can drive every single day, and you're really not giving anything up. I mean, other than the fact that it is a little loud in here for a modern car. But any kind of lightning is good. Right now, I do have the suspension in Plus R, and that is the most extreme setting. Oh, hey, here's the stoplight. I'm not going to do anything. We'll just see how far this system goes down. I'm not touching any brakes. I'm letting the system do it all by itself, and it shut off at 25. So now I have to manually shift, which kind of makes sense because it's a manual transmission car. I'm going to have to shift to get back up to speed anyway. I have seen that prices on them are kind of insane because, yeah, they're only making about 1,000 of them globally. Only 600 are coming to the States. A lot of those 600 were sold pretty quickly. So if you want one off the showroom floor, I hear dealers are asking a massive premium. Reports of some people paying mid 60 grand for these things. I think that's a bit much. However, at 44,000 and change, this is basically the same price as my 4Runner. Now, it won't do as much because it's a very different vehicle, but that's a doable figure. I mean, to have the best handling front-wheel drive car possibly ever made, yeah, that's worth something, I think. Listen when I'm downshifting. Yeah, did you hear that? That was an automatic heel toe. It blipped the throttle as I downshifted. Let's do that again. I'm not doing anything with my foot. It's automatically blipping the throttle. Now, if you don't like that, say you want a heel toe for yourself, you can turn it off in the head unit. But for just, popping around town, I think it's totally fine to have that blip that throttle. But if I want to, all I do is go home. This nav is so slow. They constantly warn you that it's unsafe to use this while driving, and clearly it is even worse because it's so slow. You hit something and you're waiting. Okay, now let's go to settings and go to vehicle. And then I'm going to scroll. Oh man, I have to put the e-brake on. I hate it when they double down on the safety stuff to the point where it's just obnoxious. Okay, driver assistance. And then at the bottom of driving assistance is rev match. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Set rev match to off. Yes, that has been selected. That took way too long. And now I can heel toe without worrying about the system interfering with my fun. It feels like the brake pedal's a little on the high side. So if I accelerate, let's just say I want to brake, put it in second. There we go. So I'm going to brake with my heel, put the clutch in, flip it. Eh. You know, the fact is that, especially when you just jump in a car for the first time in several years, I mean, I've not driven a Type R in a while, getting that heel toe just right the first time, it takes practice. And I don't know why, it feels like that brake pedal is super high. You get out of practice when driving automatics all the time. Man, I just love the feel of this thing. The way they've dialed in the steering, it's telepathic. And very few cars have I ever driven where it just feels like the car knows what you want to do. It is so connected with what the driver's doing. Yeah, okay, so you can sit there on the other side of YouTube and say, oh, well, you know, he's not shifting at the right times and all that stuff. But you know what? I'm just goofing around here. I'm not trying to make track times, okay? So just chill, have some fun. So the 3 different drive modes, they do really alter the functionality of the vehicle. I mean, Plus R really does tighten it up and makes it way more aggressive. The suspension is firmer, everything just kind of becomes more poised. And then of course there's Sport, which is the default mode, which is fine. And then Comfort, if you really want to do that, it will soften the suspension and it kind of retards the throttle a little bit, so it's a little bit slower on tip-in, but you know, it's nice to have those options, I guess. Of course, the arrival of a special edition also means that this is getting near the end of this generation of Civic. What will the new one bring? Doesn't look very exciting, but I am looking forward to see what the Type R version looks like. I'm in Plus R right now, and I am just going to floor it, and I can really feel both wheels pull me forward. Whoo! Oh man, this thing is quick. Okay, let's try a 0 to 60 right here. I don't know how this is gonna work. Front wheel drive, stick shift. We'll see how it does. Super sticky tires though. Okay, complete stop. Put it into first. 3, 2, 1, and go. A little wheel spin. 32, 50, and 60. It's 6.16 seconds. And that road was very rough. The suspension in this car, it is very tight. And in Plus R mode, it is expecting to have a smooth racetrack. That was not smooth. Now, the way that this car is set up is that it does have adaptive suspension, and the adaptive suspension is calculating lots of variables every second, and it's doing that to try to, give you the smoothest ride possible. If I'm in Plus R, it basically starts with the assumption that it's going to be stiff, and then it softens up as necessary. Whereas if I'm in Comfort, it starts with the idea that I'm going to be softer, and it stiffens it up as necessary. So it is a adjustable and yet constantly adapting system. I think it's really quite nice. I mean, it's never bone-jarringly hard, nor is it ever wallowy soft. I think it's kind of a nice compromise for a production car, and I think it's just great. I see no reason to change the suspension out on this thing. I mean, after all, it's part of what you're paying for is the suspension. Man, you have limits on front wheel drive grip, but I have to say the way it puts power down, it is so smooth and even. It's like you're not getting any torque steer. They've done magic up front to basically eliminate torque steer, yet you just feel like you're just pulling yourselves through the corners, which is exactly what you want. Regarding 0 to 60 performance, you have to keep in mind this is a front-wheel drive car, and that was not a totally smooth road. I imagine you can get under 6 seconds, probably not that hard. However, right here, right now, that's what I'm pulling. And I think that that's pretty quick for a front-wheel drive car, especially one that I've only driven for like an hour. If you're looking for a front-wheel drive car that is truly special, if you can afford it and if you can find it, the Type R Special Edition is one that I think will hold its value, but also just is so much fun to drive. Every single time I get behind the wheel of a Type R, I just giggle. Now, should you buy the Special Edition or should you get the standard Type R? Both of them are pretty special vehicles, and I think that for the money, it would make sense just to get a standard Type R unless you are hardcore. But if you're hardcore and you're like, well, I like the Type R Special Edition, but I don't want a head unit and I want a completely gutted interior, Honda will actually sell you a Type R without an interior. They used to restrict it to licensed drivers only, but if you have the wherewithal and you want one that is basically a race car, they will sell you one. So just get in contact with Honda if you're interested in something like that. I think that's it for Driving Sports TV. I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, be sure to hit the notification bell, and we'll see you again right here next week.